Lesotho is a forgotten kingdom, a tiny piece of land on the world map dwarfed by the surrounding giant, which is South Africa. This tiny African country is quite exceptional. Every winter it is covered in snow. It even has a ski slope. It has an abundance of water, which it supplies to South Africa, a country which desperately lacks it. Such wealth, however, cannot be found within this magnificent country's infrastructure. Lesothans ask only one thing of their king: to modernise their country.
Re a sokola ka nnete ha re tsamaya. Ho latela hore ha re na dikoloi tsa hore re ka re isa mono setsing sa kokelo. Mohlomong o tla re thusa re tsebe mmuso ha re ntse re kopa hore re nne re fumane dithuso.
In Lesotho, the roads are so dangerous that bush taxis driven in remote and rural areas are always driven by men. Female taxi drivers are confined to the towns and cities. However, these two jovial rebels have decided to buck the trend. Alice and Febelina are off to scour the country's tracks in search of new customers. They've spent all their savings on a final service for their minibus. In town, they have a lot of competition. In rural areas, on the other hand, taxis are rare. Alice and Febelina are hoping to double their income. But their friend William doesn't like the thought of them driving the roads on their own. Only neither Alice nor Febelina has the means to buy one. Caution is the only thing that can protect them, aside from their family's prayers. The young women hit the road with dreams of big money at the forefront of their minds. But they have forgotten one thing. Unlike in town, road signs here are rare. Driving a bush taxi is no mean feat, and Alice and Febelina's problems are only just beginning. Working in town now seems all too simple. Between taking on the descent herself or letting her friend take the wheel, Alice has quickly made her choice. Though the outside temperature may be no more than 10 degrees, the old Korean taxi suddenly feels like a pressure cooker. And they still haven't found any customers to transport. Alice and Febelina haven't taken into account one important factor. In Lesotho, many people travel through the country on horseback. It's the only form of transport which allows access to villages not served by the tracks. This horde of riders aren't just out for a stroll, they're here to keep the peace.
Bontate banana bo ba bona mona ke bontate ba mahokela ba thibelang ditlolo tsa molao tsohle tse etsalang ka go naga ena ya Lesotho mme ke batho ba hokelanang le sepolesa hantle mapolesa ke batho ba ratang go tsamaya ka dikoloi jwale o tla fumana hona le dibaka tse sa fihleleng ka dikoloi se batlang dipere fela jwale ke tsena tse o tla fumana di tlama hore mahokelana a ho fihla ho tsona.
Remaketsa and his men have been hired by the police to maintain law and order. They are referred to as the Wrath of the Lion. The militia holds all rights to enforce the law, or in any case, it exercises them, and they have no mercy with a certain type of thief.
Hantle lebaka le etsang ke kgothalle ho tsamaya ka hara metse ka mona ke sheba hona ho etsalang mo feng o hobane ke le motho a iphedisang ebile a phelang ka thepa ya bonya le Basotho le mo diphoofolo le tse ding jwalo ka mabaka gobane o tla fumana gore ditlodi tsa tsa molao ga re fitlha ka go metse ya bona ebe ga ba batle ba bang gore ba tshwarwe ebe ba lwana go qeteletse o fumana ba go tlha ditlolo tsa molao tse kang bo tshollo ya madi.
According to Remaketsa, making an example is the only way of warding off cattle thieves. But there's a downside to the fear the militia instills. The Lesothans don't like them very much. On his horse, surrounded by his men, Remaketsa is all-powerful. But in a few days' time, he will find himself behind the wheel on one of the most dangerous roads in the country. And it's there he will have to face his fears. In this country which lacks so much, resourcefulness remains the key for the inhabitants of the Sierra. Never too careful, Nelson has made his fuel tank flap into a small safe. Nelson is a travelling gas station attendant. He buys the precious liquid in cities to resell it to the highest bidder.
About 62 kilos of cabbage. Me, I get money. It was our to my land back in the for how I took a petrol. Someone takes if man a petrol, Mutayan Ritaramutsi, a man a petrol.
There are neither buses nor any public transport on these mountain roads, so there's an unspoken rule amongst drivers: don't leave anyone at the side of the road. They may be their last hope of transportation. The road is long and difficult, so Nelson keeps his spirits up with the help of substances which are very dangerous for drivers.
These seats must be taken out. This cover is the sound it's in a
Aside from a penalty, which is unlikely in this remote area, smoking weed at the wheel can have dramatic consequences, particularly when driving on the edge of ravines, but Nelson seems blissfully unaware.
Focusing on one thing, especially when I'm driving. ha ke be le ditaba tse ngata tse ke naganang. I just focus on my car, so ke a di prefer. Ke rata o kganna ke tsuba because koloi ke ntho e kotsi e batlang focus jwale ke kutlwi madi wa nang etsa go.
It does seem, however, that this forbidden indulgence has taken its toll on the state of Nelson's car, and apparently his boss is none the wiser as to why. The next incident will surely cost him his job as a driver, and maybe more.
And go into the let's half the skiers. The gas so cool. For colleague, I get the little tolerable. And I live in Tottenham, say, you will like, you will like the top.
Litres and litres of water for the engine, but still no customers for our two bush taxi drivers. Finally, a customer, and 16 lotis in their pocket. That's around €1.
Yes, a license got the land company. You funnel get it public. Or you can elevate. Musavetu and our Hana, they say Musavetu won't that day. Impalanas exactly like you can elevate your Hana.
The difficult roads aren't all bad, as the time taken to negotiate them brings along another customer.
Daddy, oh, we are right. Didn't give a thing, Linda Calabacala, so Ula Hafabu. I got my Linda because Kimutel and Halekim Crazy, Teresa Tanya Daliana, so I'm so that you can say, I believe it's a how fella, how can I tassel out the Elena, that's why it's him.
As women who drive bush taxis in Lesotho are few and far between, they tend to command people's respect. In a few kilometres' time, this group of travellers will quickly change their mind. But this descent may quickly bring the mood down. The track is incredibly slippery and the precipice dizzying. This young woman, who's used to driving in towns, is struggling to control her old taxi, and she has a unique way of reassuring her passengers. With the worst of the panic over, Alice and Febelina find their passengers again, who are shocked to see them arrive in one piece. With all the day's excitement, they've worked up a hunger. They've pocketed €5, which means they can treat themselves. But meat can be a rare treat, as Alice and Febelina earn an average of around €1,000 a year. Nelson, the travelling gas station attendant, has barely moved on his journey to deliver gas to the mountain villages. He's been driving without a break for 6 hours and he's only travelled 40 kilometres. He's taken the tracks situated deep down inside the canyons, which are particularly stony and uneven. Nelson is 20 kilometres away from the village. It doesn't sound like much, but it's a long way when it's travelled at night. The dangers are plentiful. Rather than take on wild animals and thieves, Nelson and his 2 lucky passengers opt to camp out for the night. But not just anywhere. The mountains of Lesotho are riddled with caves. Some are a bit like time machines, which harbour the oldest rock paintings in the world.
ba sebedisa madi a tsona mohlomong ka go nagana ba gona go ba etse di-drawing jalo ka dipente ba ne ba sena mo ba reng ke dishopong ba thola mello teng ka re ne ba sebedisa manyetana le ditlamatlama go etsa mello
le ha lena ka botlo wa bona gore ke ntho eo modimo o e entseng gore e be teng fela eo ba ileng ba phela go yona e leng gore go no tlhokala fela kore di bolokwe mme di baballwe ke yona taba e bohlokwa.
It's near freezing and not much warmer by the fireside. As for Alice and Febelina, they've now warmed up. Today's jackpot means they can let their hair down. The next morning, last night's party is starting to take its toll, but it certainly hasn't dampened their spirits. The young women are heading to the Valley of the Horses. Today, their main aim is not to find customers, but to attend an important event for Alice.
Ntai ke motho a tsebahalang haholo dume haholo ka o palama lo bapala papadi ena races ya dipere go bona re tlameha hore re lo mo support-a le ha o ntse o le jwalo ha re na bothata wa tsela ha fela koloi ka ya khutla re mo support-ile a le sharp le gona re tla be re le sharp re rata ha re ka bona le hantle.
Horse races aren't fought out on a racetrack, but on the mountain plateaus of Lesotho. Here, the riders are considered to be heroes. Every week, they trek long distances to line up on the start line. Alice's cousin Entai is pulling his whole fortune behind him.
Mojao ho nna ke tare ke papadi ene e molemo mo no papading eno ya rone ke thola mo ke wina molemo ke khona ho kwala gore ntho ngwe le ngwe e bang ke sita ho ikwala ha ke bapala papadi ena ke khona ho ikwala. Ke na le dilemo tse ka fihlang 15. Ha ke qala ke qadile ya lebelo e sa matheng terepedi ka nna ka ya jwalo ho fihlela ke ba le bui ha ntse ke hlola batho ba bang ka papadi ena nang ke bapalang ke ba le phihlelo ba hore ke ka ba le pere tse pedi ya terepele le ya lebelo.
But things aren't about to go as smoothly as Entai might hope. With no posters and no advertising to promote it, talk of the race has spread from village to village, carried on the wind and by travellers. As if by magic, 300 people have gathered on this small piece of land. Each will gamble their meagre savings in the hope of improving their lot. Entai lines up at the starting line, cheered on by Alice and Febelina. The race is underway. But suddenly, just as he's about to take the lead, Entai's horse swerves off course. Entai makes a spectacular comeback but crosses the line in second place. Entai would win it hands down. Alongside his horse, the young man not only takes part in races, but also does life-saving work. Not all riders are able to maintain their speed when they swap the reins for the wheel. Like Remaketse, head of the militiamen, on his horse he is feared across the whole mountain, but when he swaps his armour for a taxi, he becomes a man like any other, one with flaws and fears, especially on this road, which he's taking on for the first time. Ramaketsa has collected people from his village in South Africa. The militiaman is not scared of a punch-up with his enemies, but the further he gets down this track, the more scared he becomes. Ramaketsa is taking on the Sani Pass for the first time. The track connects South Africa to Lesotho. It's about 40 kilometers of treacherous zigzags bordered on all sides by ravines. The proud militiaman has admitted defeat. For him, pursuing thieves is much easier than driving on this deadly road. The climb is never ending. The mountain pass peaks at 3,000 meters above sea level. This driver has had a lucky escape. Now he just needs to get his car out of the ditch, but that's a challenge in itself. Ramaketsa realizes he was right to relinquish control of the wheel. Most Lesothans want their little country to become a part of South Africa. The African giant is a modern country which is constantly developing, unlike their kingdom.
a tseba nna ne ke bona go le molemo jalo ka gape le o ntse o thole Lesotho le kopana le South Africa molemong wa bo gona re le Basotho ke bona ka e tlabe go betere ga ka Lesotho la kopana le South Africa mohlolo mong
fela ba le teng Lesotho le na le tšhelete ke ditaemane ka ga Lesotho motlakase wa fehla ka ga Lesotho ke metsi a mangata ka ga Lesotho empa ha o bone South Africa e reka metsi Lesotho ha o bone gore na ditšhelete tsena kaofela di etsetsa Lesotho eng o bona go iphedisa bona le ba malapa a bona ha ile setšhaba ha ona ntho ba reng le thoka yona.
Lesotho's riches lie in the form of its snow. It's a striking image and quite exceptional for Africa. It's thanks to this that Lesotho is referred to as a water tower. It's the highest country in Africa, and its lowest point is found at 1,300 meters above sea level. Winter is in full force in the month of August. During this time, temperatures drop below freezing, around -10 degrees. And seeing as man has learned to tame the snow, Lesotho and South Africa are home to the only ski slopes in this part of the continent. Amongst the avid skiers are few Lesothans and lots of South Africans. Skiing is not an affordable hobby for the majority of Lesothans. Alice and Febelina have never seen skiers in their lives.
Nkampa ke ga kena tšhelete ka reka mazimba kanja hona le go ke etse jwalo nna ka nnete la ka batho ke na le tšhelete ke ithakela direction ba ga ke direction kapa ke direction ha ke tsebe ke a reka ke a šomotha ke je gore jurjit kampeng ga se ntho e tlwaelehileng bakeng sa batho ba batsho e tlwaelehile bathong ba basweu ke yona ntho e ba e ratang gagolo le ga letlhwa le qala lena fela re bona ka bona gore ba nyolwa ba ya ka mane ka
ke a rata go tla mara mosebetsi wa ka if nka ba le tšhelete nka qatelela ke tlile gobane ke ntho e ke e kgalela motlhe ga ke tsamaya mole ke feta ke ba bona go lesong.
A can of soda and a head full of dreams are all Alice and Febelina can enjoy at this ski resort reserved for South Africa's golden youth. While waiting for the country to develop, its inhabitants must look out for each other. In the villages, everyone chips in and helps in whatever way they can. When he's not competing in horse races, Entay transforms into a paramedic. This elderly woman has called for his help.
Fumane molaetsa wa hore o hloka thuso ya hore nka o nka ka pere ho ya ka ngakeng.
Ke a kula ntate, ehlile ke kopile hore o mpo tlo tla nkisa ka ngakeng.
Ho hana kae?
Ka mahetleng le ka sefubeng.
Oh.
Mangole. Re a sokola ka nnete ha re tsamaya. Ho latela hore ha re na dikoloi tsa hore re ka re isa mono setsing sa kokelo. Mohlomong o tla re thusa re tsebe mmuso. Ha re ntse re kopa hore re nne re fumane dithuso.
In a lot of pain, the elderly lady will have to endure a day on horseback to reach the hospital.
Ha ke hloke ha ka ba go bohloko hobane le yena ha o dutse a etsa hore ke dule ke thabile kore ha ona mohlanka ka reng o dutse o nkgentshitse hobane hana jwale ke bohloko hobane ha ke sa kgona ho thola dipale kapa ditshomo ho yena hobane wa kula o se ke jwa ke bodutu ha o tla tsenana. Ke ntho e tlwaelehileng empa tjhe bong ha se kaofela ba etsang ehlile ke tla re mona motseng mona wa mona ke nna e kgothalletseng ho etsa ntho eno ke nna e kgothalletseng ho etsa hobane ke tseba melemo ya bona hore na hore ke nkile motho e mong le mong a moholo e leng motswadi wa.
There is a saying in Lesotho, sitting down and doing nothing won't get the thorn out of your side. They fight every day just to try and make their life a little bit easier.